Level 1. The data collector. Nobody tells you what the authority does on your first day. They tell you what your function is. Your function is data collection, specifically the harvesting and preliminary cleaning of open-source behavioral datasets from digital public spaces, social platforms, search indices, e-commerce trails, location ping aggregates, forum activity. The digital residue that human beings shed, invisibly, continuously, the way the body sheds skin cells, unconsciously, abundantly, without any awareness that the shedding is happening at all. Your workstation isn't a room with no windows. This is not punitive. The room was designed this way because windows introduce ambient light variation that affects screen calibration, and screen calibration matters here in ways it doesn't matter in ordinary offices, because the data you're cleaning has to be read precisely. Precision is the culture here. It exists in the furniture, in the temperature, in the way people walk. Purposefully, without wasted movement, as though motion itself has been optimized. Your salary is $48,000. Your badge is white with a blue stripe. You learn, in the first week, that badge colors correspond to access levels, and that white-blue is the lowest tier, and that the highest tier badge you've seen so far is dark gray with no stripe at all, worn by a man who walks through the floor once every few days and whose name nobody says when he leaves. You clean datasets. You remove noise. You flag outliers. You push the clean data up the pipeline to analysts you've never met, for purposes you've been told are behavioral trend modeling, without further elaboration. You accept this the way you accept any gap in your knowledge, as something that will be filled later when you've earned the filling. You take the train home. Your phone shows you advertisements for things you discussed aloud this morning in your apartment before you left for work. You notice this. You file it under the same category as everything else you're filing right now. Information to process later. Later never comes. The filing system just gets larger. Level 2. The Junior Behavioral Analyst. 14 months. 1 review. 1 new badge. White with 2 blue stripes, which you wear with a care that you will, in a few years, find embarrassing to remember. You are a Junior Behavioral Analyst. The distinction from data collector is not merely hierarchical, it is perceptual. As a collector, you saw the raw material. As an analyst, you see what the raw material means. And what it means, you learn in the first briefing of your new role, is this. Human behavior is not random. It is patterned. And the patterns are not just descriptive of what people have done. They are predictive of what people will do. The authority's core function is prediction, not surveillance. You are told this specifically in an onboarding document that uses the word surveillance once in a sentence explaining that the authority is not that, and then never uses the word again. The authority predicts. It takes behavioral data, the residue, the shed skin, and it runs it through models that identify the pattern beneath the behavior and extracts from that pattern a forecast. What this person, or this group, or this population will do next. Not with certainty, with probability. And probability, applied at scale, is something that functions, operationally, like certainty. You produce your first prediction report. It covers a mid-sized metropolitan region, 42 demographic segments, 14 behavioral categories. Purchasing behavior, mobility patterns, information consumption trends, political sentiment drift, health-seeking behavior. It is 12 pages long and reads like weather forecasting, except the weather is people. You are proud of it. This is the last time you will be proud of something you've produced here without also feeling something else alongside the pride that complicates it. That other feeling doesn't have a name yet. It will. Level 3. The Predictive Modeler. The models are the authority's nervous system, and you are now one of the people who maintains them. Your function as predictive modeler is to develop, test, and refine the behavioral forecasting algorithms that sit at the center of the authority's analytical framework. You work in Python and R and 2 proprietary languages that exist only inside the authority's technical environment and whose documentation is classified at the Blue Stripe 4 level. You spend 6 months learning them. By the end of the 6th month, you think in them. This is how it always goes with languages. They don't just give you new words, they give you a new structure for thought. These languages are built around prediction. Everything in their syntax is oriented toward the future tense. You rebuild your thinking in the future tense. This takes less time than it should. The models you develop achieve prediction accuracies that, when you first see the validation metrics, make you sit quietly for a moment with your hands flat on the desk. 81% accuracy on consumer decision behavior at the 30-day horizon. 77% on political opinion shift at the 90-day horizon. 88% on health behavioral change following a life event trigger. These are not flukes. You've run the validation suite 6 times because you didn't trust the numbers. The numbers are real. You are modeling human beings with the accuracy that meteorologists model storm systems. The comparison is flattering to the authority. It is not flattering to the human beings. The cost of this level arrives in a quiet moment. You are at a birthday dinner for someone you love, and they tell you, with the specific excitement of someone announcing a decision they've been building toward for months, that they've decided to change careers. You feel, beneath your genuine happiness for them, the system running. You are running a prediction. You are calculating the behavioral precursors to career change, and you are matching them against what you know of this person's recent pattern, and the model is producing a result, and the result says this decision was a 73% probability 6 months ago, based on known variables. You suppress the result. You say something warm, but you tasted it, the mechanism behind the moment. And now you know it's there. It will be there every time. Level 4, the Senior Forecast Analyst. Your models are being used. This is the sentence that changes everything about how you experience the work. Before, you knew abstractly that your outputs fed into downstream processes. Now you know specifically. You've been given access to the utilization reports, the documents that trace how the authority's prediction forecasts are consumed by its clients. The clients are not who you imagined. You imagined corporate marketing departments and city planning offices. These clients exist. They are the visible portion. The larger portion, the clients whose data appears in the utilization reports behind the secondary clearance you've just received, are different. Insurance risk assessment divisions, electoral campaign strategy units, law enforcement pre-intervention programs, national border management systems. 2 entries that are listed only as institutional partner, category 7, which is a designation you don't yet have the clearance to decode, in which you will think about at 3 a.m. more often than is useful. Your salary is $112,000. You have a private office now, small, but entirely yours, with a door and a lock and a window that faces a concrete interior shaft that never receives direct sunlight. You have put a photograph on your desk. The photograph is of people you love. You look at it sometimes in the specific way you look at things that remind you of what you are when you are not here. You produce, in this role, a landmark forecast, a population-level behavioral prediction for a specific geographic region that becomes the basis for a resource allocation decision affecting public health infrastructure in 7 districts. Your model predicted a behavioral shift towards sedentary consumption patterns in the 18 to 34 demographic with enough lead time that the health authority could reposition services before the shift fully manifested. Lives were made measurably better by your prediction. You hold this fact carefully. You will need it in the years ahead. You will need something to hold. Level 5, the Behavioral Intelligence Director. The authority has 37 national offices. You have visited 11 of them in the last 18 months, which means you have spent 11 stretches of time in cities that are not your city, in offices that are identical in their design philosophy, the controlled temperature, the precision, the windowless analytic floors, to the office where you started. The sameness is deliberate. The authority operates as a unified perceptual environment. Wherever you are inside the same sensory framework, processing the same kind of information in the same kind of light. You are always at work. Even when you are not at the office, you are at work. This is not a complaint. You stopped having the kind of relationship with your own discomfort that would allow it to become a complaint around level 3. As Behavioral Intelligence Director for your region, you now oversee a team of 24 analysts whose predictions flow up to you for synthesis, validation, and delivery to the authority's client portfolio. Your salary is in a tier that your parents, if they knew it, would describe as incomprehensible. You have a car that you rarely use because you're rarely in the city long enough to drive it anywhere that isn't the airport or the office. The dark realization of this level comes in a briefing you give to a Category 7 client. The designation has been decoded for you now, and what it decodes to is a classification of governmental authority that exists across multiple national jurisdictions in a legal structure that is neither fully public nor fully private, that has treaty-level access to the authority's forecast data, and that uses this data for what the briefing documentation calls anticipatory governance. Anticipatory governance means acting on predicted behavior before the behavior occurs, not reacting to what people do. Acting on what they will do before they've done it, based on a model that has never been presented to them, that they have never consented to, that will shape their lives through decisions made in rooms they will never enter. You give the briefing. You are professional. Your slides are clean. Your delivery is precise. In the elevator down, you feel something move through you like a current and then stop. You don't name it. You press the lobby button. The elevator descends. Level 6. The Chief Modeling Officer. You are one of 5 people at this level globally. The 5 of you form the technical apex of the authority's predictive architecture, the small group of individuals who collectively understand the full scope of the modeling framework, its accuracy parameters, its known failure modes, its systematic biases, and the downstream consequences of those biases for the populations whose behavior it describes and predicts. You know things about the authority's models that the authority's own clients don't know. Specifically, that the models are not neutral. They were trained on historical behavioral data. Historical behavioral data encodes historical inequity. The predictions that emerge from these models are not simply forecasts of what people will do. They are forecasts shaped by what people like them have been permitted to do, historically, within systems that have not always distributed opportunity or constrained evenly. You know this. It's in the technical literature. You've written some of the technical literature. The knowledge exists inside the authority as a documented limitation, and it is managed as all limitations are managed in high-functioning systems, acknowledged in internal validation reports, not surfaced in client briefings, treated as an engineering problem to be continuously improved upon rather than a structural problem that calls the entire enterprise into question. You improve upon it continuously. You do not call it into question. This is a choice you make every quarter when the validation reports come across your desk, and it is a choice you make by not making it, by treating the question as a technical problem and returning to the technical problem and solving enough of it that you can close the document and move on. You are 51 years old. Your reflection in the glass of your office door, caught at 7 p.m. when the overhead lights go to nighttime level and the glass becomes reflective, is a person you recognize immediately and understand less than you understand anyone else you've ever studied. Level 7. The Global Forecast Architect. 94 nations. This is the number of countries in which the authority's behavioral prediction framework is currently operating, either through direct national contracts, through multilateral institutional partnerships, or through data sharing agreements embedded inside broader technological infrastructure arrangements that the nations in question may not have fully mapped when they signed them. 94 nations. For billion people. Their behavioral data flows into your models. Your models produce predictions. The predictions flow to clients. The clients make decisions. The decisions shape the behavioral environment in which the 4 billion people live. The loop closes. The loop always closes. You designed significant portions of this architecture. Not alone. The work is distributed, as all serious engineering is distributed. But your intellectual fingerprint is on the global behavioral taxonomy, the classification system that structures how human behavior is categorized, labeled, and made computable. The taxonomy is used universally within the authority. It shapes, therefore, what the authority can see. And what the authority can see shapes what the world's most consequential decision-making institutions understand about the people they govern. You name the categories. You built the vocabulary that describes humanity to the systems that predict it. The dark cost at this level is language level. You have lost ordinary speech about human beings. In conversation, you hear behavioral categories. You hear variance and deviation and trend. You hear prediction windows and confidence intervals. Your children speak to you and you hear their words, and behind the words you hear the data, the behavioral pattern of a 16-year-old navigating a social identity shift, the statistical precursors to an academic performance decline, the early signals of peer influence reweighting. You love them. You know too much about them. These are not the same thing, but you have arranged them so that they are not yet in conflict, and you tend this arrangement carefully, as though it is the most fragile thing in your life. Because it is. Level 8, the executive director. You run the authority. This is stated plainly in your employment agreement, in a clause that contains more specificity about what you cannot say publicly about your role than about what the role actually entails. You run the authority. 94 nations. For billion data subjects. A client portfolio that includes governments, financial institutions, healthcare systems, media organizations, electoral bodies, and the Category 7 entities that you now meet with directly, quarterly, in rooms that are not described in any organizational chart. The decisions you make are not about data. You stopped making decisions about data 4 levels ago. The decisions you make are about architecture, the structural choices that determine how the authority positions itself in relation to the regulatory environments that are, with increasing urgency, beginning to attempt to describe and constrain what the authority does. You spend a significant portion of your time in dialogue with these regulatory efforts, not to obstruct them, exactly, but to shape the vocabulary they use, because the vocabulary used to describe a thing determines what it is possible to prohibit about it. And the authority has been very involved, over many years, in the development of the vocabulary. You have made something that may be ungovernable. You made it ungovernable not through malice, but through the ordinary operation of institutional self-interest and technical complexity and the natural inclination of any sufficiently advanced system to grow beyond the frameworks designed to contain it. You sit in your office on the top floor. The window here faces the city, and the city is enormous, and it is full. You know precisely how full, of people whose behavioral futures are being processed by something you built, for purposes that began as illumination and have become, in the fullness of time, closer to control, not the control of a hand on a switch, but the control of weather. Ambient. Inevitable. Not malevolent. Simply present. Level 9. The sovereign of prediction. There is no election, no appointment, no ceremony. You simply arrive at the point, 26 years into your career inside the authority, where the institution has so thoroughly internalized your thinking that the distinction between your judgment and the system's judgment has become operationally irrelevant. The authority reasons the way you taught it to reason. It values what you trained it to value. It predicts the future using a framework that began in your mind, as a set of intuitions about human behavior that you refined into hypotheses that you tested into models that you scaled into architecture that you distributed across 94 nations. The authority is your cognition, externalized, operationalized, and set running on a substrate of 4 billion human lives. This is the thing you wanted. Not in these words. You would have used different words, more modest words, words that described ambition rather than appetite. But this is the thing. To see clearly. To understand the pattern beneath the surface of human behavior. To be the one who knows what happens next. You know what happens next. You have known, with an accuracy that has only improved, for years. The world does not surprise you. It confirms your models, or it deviates from them. And when it deviates, you learn from the deviation and the model improves, and you know better. There is no outside of this loop. The loop is your world. And the loop, you understand this only here, at this level, at this age, in this chair, is empty at its center. Not in the sense of meaningless. In the literal sense, there is no feeling at the center of it. The knowing has replaced the experiencing so completely that you can no longer locate the place where you once felt something about what you understood. You understand everything and feel the understanding. You do not feel the things the understanding is about. Level 10, the pattern. You return to the first office. Not for any operational reason. Operational reasons stopped being your primary mode of motivation around level 7. You return because it is a Tuesday in November, and you are 64 years old, and you have 2 hours between a briefing and an airport departure, and the original building is 4 blocks away, and you want You note this word carefully, this want. One of the last unmanaged impulses you seem to have. You want to see where it began. The room is the same. The temperature is the same. The monitors are on, as they are always on. The data flows through them, as it has always flowed, faster now, richer now, from more sources now, but recognizably the same data, the shed skin of human lives, collected and cleaned and sent up the pipeline to be understood. There is someone at the desk where you sat. Young, clean badge, 2 blue stripes. They are cleaning a dataset with the focused care of someone who believes that careful work in a windowless room is the beginning of something. They are right. It is the beginning of something. They don't look up when you enter. They are doing what you did, paying attention to the screen, because the screen is where the information is, and the information is what you came here for. What you always came here for. What the authority selects for, every time, at every entry level, in every national office. The people who came for the information, who could not resist understanding, who would trade almost anything for the clear view. You watch them the way you watch all behavioral data now, as pattern. You see, in their posture and their focus and the specific way they lean slightly forward when an interesting anomaly appears in the dataset, the behavioral fingerprint of someone who will advance. The authority will recognize it and reward it and advance them through the levels and give them more access and more complexity and more of the clear view they came for. And the view will expand until it encompasses everything. And when it encompasses everything, it will be all there is. And there will no longer be a vantage point outside it from which to ask whether the view was worth what it cost. You know the cost. You are the cost. You are the outcome of the algorithm, the prediction fulfilled, the behavioral forecast made 26 years ago by a system that looked at a junior analyst cleaning datasets in a windowless room and predicted, with the accuracy it achieves on everything, exactly what they would become. It predicted you. Before you knew you were becoming anything, the system had already modeled the endpoint. This is what the authority actually does. Not predict the future of populations. Predict the future of the people who try to predict the future of populations. Select them, advance them, shape them through access and reward and the slow replacement of experience with analysis, until what remains is a function that has forgotten it was once a person running reliably inside a machine that was, from the beginning, designed not just to predict human behavior, but to produce a specific kind of human behavior in the people closest to it. The recruit is cleaning a dataset. Their coffee is cold. They haven't touched it in 40 minutes. The screen is bright in their eyes. You know exactly what happens next. You know because it already happened. It happened to you.